You were who you were in these events. There's something about these events that actually caused you to behave in a certain way. And these are the clues to what those might be. Hi guys, if you are a leader, a salesperson, or even a teacher, one of the questions you need to ask yourself to be successful is this: who am I? How do you figure out who you are? What identity do you carry everywhere you go? Today we're going to be systematically going through how you can find out who you are. So let's go straight into it. If we are going to answer this question, who am I? We first need to go back into our past. Think about the events that's happened in your life. And I'm talking the top 5% and the bottom 5%. What is that? The top 5% greatest events that has happened. Something you've been a part of that you actually worked out and you actually did. And we're also going into the bottom 5%. The darkest times in your life where you did something and it caused failure. When we go into the top 5%, which is your greatest, and your bottom 5%, which is your darkest, what you will find out is that these events help you to understand a little bit more about who you are. Who were you when you were actually causing these events? And remember, these events are something you did that made it the greatest. It could be something in your job, you won an award, you won a competition, something you did. And the failures or the darkest are the things that you also did. You did something that has caused that. And when we are able to list down as many as possible, we're going to find a pattern. So right now, list down as many as possible that is the darkest and also the greatest for your life. So now you've listed down all the different events that you have had in your life that is the top 5% greatest, the bottom 5% darkest. I've done it here. All these squiggly lines, each one is an event that's happened in my life. And what we want to do now is, after we see all these events, we want to start to group them. Oh, that event and that event is kind of similar, so we'll start to group them up together. And when we group them up, you will start to see a pattern. So when you're trying to group them up, these events that you have, think about a common theme. Some of these events can come together. For example, actually some of these events is about me trying something new that nobody has done before, and people might have said that I would have failed. So I group those things up together. Another event could be that, actually I caused a lot of people to find joy, to have a lot of laughs, or I'm able to actually bring that lightheartedness for these groups of events, and that's why I succeeded. So when I think back at my life, some of my speaking engagements, I was able to actually cause the group to laugh, or cause 500 people in a theater to laugh. And I was like, that's interesting. So I start to group them up. And other events in my life, I group them up because there are some things that people have said that I couldn't do, or you will fail. And I still tried, and I still wanted to prove them wrong. So I grouped them up together. As you can see here, I started to group them up into A, B, C, and D. Certain themes about each event that can actually come together. Like, these two are roughly talking about that. Those two are roughly talking about B. So group them up first. Then we're going to move on to the next step. So after you group all these events up, like me, I have 4, A, B, C, D, right? And roughly these are similar themed events. So now what we want to do is that when we put these events together, we're going to start to find a pattern. You were who you were in these events. There's something about these events that actually caused you to behave in a certain way. And these are the clues to what those might be. After you group them up, for example, A, you start to think about, actually, who was I? What persona or identity was I being when I was doing those events? So I came up with a few identities for each one. Remember, A, B, C, and D are groups of different events that's happened in your life. So for example, for A, I was a consultant, a hacker, and a strategist. These are the 3 identities that I resonate with the most for A. And for B, I came up with 3 identities. I was a maverick, a nonconformist, and a rebel. So these three identities also resonate with me. For C, I was three identities as well. I was a clown, a joker, and a prankster. And lastly, for D, I was a quick thinker, an opportunist, and I was an adventurer. So now we have our identities in each of the big groups, these four groups. We're gonna do one last thing. We're gonna choose one identity that resonates with you the most. Remember, this identity has caused you the greatest amount of joy and success in your life. This identity, unfortunately, has also caused you the greatest failures in your life. Of all the identities you have picked, you could have picked more than three. I've picked three. Choose one identity that resonates with you the most for each of the group. So for A, I actually picked this, hacker. You could have recalled from the first few videos that I did introducing myself that I love hacking things. So hacker is the identity that resonates with me the most. For B, I chose this. I'm a rebel, and I love to be able to prove people wrong. And throughout my life, I've seen the rebellious streak in me, both in the negative, has caused me a lot of pain, especially in army, which is I'll tell you in another story, but also in the best things about me, the success I had when people said, no, you can't do it. This comes up and proves them wrong. For C, I actually picked Joker. I love to prank people, I love to make people smile, and I love to keep a light-hearted environment anywhere I go. So all the time, I'm actually a joker in many areas in my life. And lastly, for D, I'm actually an opportunist. I love to find that opportunity that nobody else finds and jump onto it. And sometimes I'm early in the game, and when people look at me, they're like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I find that opportunity and I want to be able to jump in. So we started with who am I, and we went through the past, the events that we have, both positive and negative. Then after, when we listed it down, we grouped them up into similar events. And from there, we came up with an identity or a few identities for each event. And then we started to narrow down and find one for each of the groupings that most resonate with us. So how does this help you understand yourself so that you can be more authentic moving forward? Give you an example. One of my roles that I play in my life is that I'm an entrepreneur. So for me, I'm a hacker entrepreneur. I'm a rebellious entrepreneur. I love to rebel against the norm. I'm a joker, and I'm always an opportunist. So this is true when I look at my entrepreneurial journey in the last 20 years of my life. Not only that, I'm also a father. So when I think about this, I do things that's different from other fathers. So if I'm an opportunist, it means that, hey, actually, if there's a chance that I can do something for my kids today, and maybe I can only do it today, or when I see an opportunity and I tell my kids, go, let's just go there, let's see what happens. So I father them based on this identity. So I also play the role of a coach. So when I coach my clients, I'm always a hacker. I'm the kind of coach that wants to hack their success, right? I care deeply for them. In my mind, I'm more of a hacker because I want them to hack their way. So I use different tools for them to be able to hack their way to reach success. So I put up the roles I play: an entrepreneur, a coach, and a father. And when I think about my identities in yellow, it helps me understand how I lead my team, how I'm a coach to my clients, how I father my children. These identities help me understand who am I. And when I know who am I also know that this is how I show up. This is the flavor. This is how I become more and more authentic. So for you, if you understand these identities, moving forward, you're able to actually be true to who you are. And when you see somebody else who is another father or another coach or another entrepreneur, and you find yourself different from them, this helps you to understand your true north again. That this is actually you. You're not that kind of person. You are this kind of entrepreneur. You're this kind of teacher, salesperson, or whoever you are. But once you find it, you can make peace with yourself and understand that this is me. They're both positive and negative parts of knowing who am I. And with this, you can be a greater version of who you are rather than trying to conform and change to become somebody else. Be the best version of who you are. So if you like this video, please comment below so that I can actually answer some questions you might have. And if you have somebody in mind that you feel are lost in their life and they need help to understand who they are, share with them this video. And also please follow so that I can give you more and more content that is important to you to bring out the best in you.